Hi friends, grab a cup of tea or water or coffee or whatever you'd like. Today I am sipping on French Earl Grey tea. I won't tell you where it's from because it's not like anybody is sponsoring me or anything like that, but it is one of my favourite teas, if not my favourite. I like to have it with just a little bit of sugar and a dash of milk. Hi Mahoney. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you are sipping on. It's okay if it's not tea. Coffee, water, lemonade, whatever you like. Oh my gosh, now I really want homemade lemonade. Today I'd like to chat about fear. It is something that I have been learning a lot about, and through that learning a lot about myself. So I wanted to talk about it with you and do some sharing, because over the last couple of years, it will sound a little bit strange, but I have been experiencing real fear for the first time in my life. Even through some of the things that I have been through in my life, of course we all go through lots of different things. I think back to when I was going through treatment for cancer a few years ago now, and I'm fine and healthy now, which is great. But I remember having a conversation with a really good friend of mine, and we were talking about that fear of dying. I said to her that at no point was I actually afraid, because I had just made this decision that I wasn't going to die. I know that there are a lot of people who sadly go through cancer and might be the most positive, amazing people who, you know, feel the same way and are determined not to die, and sadly they do. So I don't think that it's as simple as that, but in terms of my own state of mind, I decided really early on after my diagnosis that I didn't want to die and I wasn't going to. So it took away that space for being afraid, and it meant that I was just focused on what was in front of me. And so when my partner, husband, best friend, soulmate, when Brian passed away in April of 2019, I had this realization a few weeks later that I was truly afraid for the first time. I was afraid of, and still am, afraid of what my future is going to look like, because of course all of the plans that we had for the life that we've been building have gone out the window. It's a huge financial struggle, it's a huge emotional struggle, of course. You know, I'm afraid that I might be alone for the rest of my life in that capacity now. There are so many things that are just huge question marks, and I think that something that many of us probably share is a little bit of fear of the unknown. And that is a huge lesson for me in itself, and one that I look to my animals, my girls. So I have a dog and two cats, so Mahoney, Rogue and Bean. I look to them as a reminder to try to stay present and focus on now. So that is, oh, right on cue, here comes Bean. You can't drink the tea. Yeah, I look to them as a reminder to stay present and to focus on where I am now. And I think, you know, it's always important to think about where you want to be and to strive for goals and what you want in life. But I'm trying to do better at finding myself here and now and trusting that the rest will come. So one of the things that has been really big for me to learn about is trusting. And with an emotion like fear, I think that trust is difficult to have, but it's important. I think that we need to trust ourselves that the things we feel are okay, that they're valid, and trusting that they will pass. That's been a huge thing for me over the last couple of years, or the last year and a half, to really lean into the fact that all of the emotions that we feel pass if we give them space. If we close them off, if we shut them down, if we push them away, if we try to ignore them, if we distract ourselves, which sometimes is a really important coping tool, I've learned that they will come back. And look, sometimes they come back anyway. Things go in cycles. Everything goes in cycles. The seasons, plants, life cycles of animals, and fashion. So I think accepting the fact that sometimes uncomfortable and unpleasant feelings, they come and go, and they might come back, but if we don't feel them and create space for them to exist and accept that they exist, then they always just bubble under the surface, and that is a really hard thing to deal with. So what I've been really trying to do is, no matter what the emotion or what the feeling, I have really been working on finding, sometimes it's not appropriate to feel them in that moment that you first have them, and so it's okay to focus elsewhere. You might be working, you might be out with company, whatever it is, and that's not to say that, you know, you can't excuse yourself if you're able to, and feel the things that you need to feel and then get back to what you're doing. But sometimes we're not able to do that. Sometimes we don't want to do that, and that's okay. So to shift your focus to the present moment that you're in, to focus on your surroundings, whether it's people or an environment, is okay. But I've found it really important to, at a later moment, create a time and a space where it's safe for me to feel the things that are there and that need to be felt. Because if we don't do that, they will come back anyway, and sometimes they'll come out in a moment or even in a way that's even more difficult for us to handle or deal with. So finding a safe space to feel the things that we need to feel is really crucial, I've learned, and feel them wholly. There are still times, it's been, wait, what month is it? It's been 17 months since Brian died, and I still have days where I don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes I feel like I can't get out of bed. I have times when I literally fall in a heap on the floor and feel like I can't get up and can't stop crying. But those moments happening and being allowed to exist means that once I've had them and I've recovered from them, which sometimes takes a little bit of time, I can find it in myself to participate in my life again after those moments have happened and after I've felt those things. And sometimes they're really intense and they're unpleasant and they're devastating, but feeling them means that then there's space to feel other things, good things. Sometimes I'm afraid that I'll never stop feeling those things, that I'll never stop falling into that hole. But allowing myself to feel those feelings and to think those thoughts means that they have space to move through me. And this makes me think of one of my all-time favorite quotes, ideas, whatever you want to call it. And this might be a little bit cliche coming from a martial artist, but it's a quote from Bruce Lee. And I'm not going to get it right verbatim because I haven't actually read the quote in a long time. It's just something that is always, in the back of my mind. he talks about being like water, because water flows, it changes, it moves, and it adapts. It can be, he says that if water is in a teapot, the water becomes the teapot. And I mean, this was something that I used to always apply to fighting and to training, but it applies to life really well also, because not only is it great to be able to go with the flow of life, but we can also be like water in the sense that we can flow with that which flows through us. But if we build a dam, things get blocked and it stops those feelings and those thoughts from being able to move through you. So what I would really like to share is to lean into the things that you're feeling. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels great, but it's not going to always feel good. Sometimes it feels scary. Sometimes we straight up don't want to feel these things. I don't like feeling afraid because I'm not used to it. I hadn't felt it before. You know, there are little things that I'm scared of, like spiders and heights. I mean, when I'm up high, and sometimes by high, I mean like standing on top of a kitchen bench or something, I get dizzy and my heart races, even when I know I'm safe, physically safe. But these are things that I find when I'm in the situation, I can overcome them quite easily. Spiders, now that I am the only human living in this house, I mean, Mahoney's not going to take a spider outside and across the road and over a fence. If we find one in the house, I had 3 white-tailed spiders in 4 nights in the bedroom, and I had to collect them in a jar and put them outside, and it was not pleasant, but I was able to keep myself calm enough to do it because there was no other option. And something that I am now trying to apply to feeling afraid of other less tangible things in my life is to accept fear and then just go with it. Fear is not something that we need to be afraid of. That's what I'm learning. So in being afraid of where my life is going to go, what I'm going to be doing in a year's time, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, Brian and I had a plan for all of that. We knew exactly what we wanted. We knew how we wanted to be living. We had a plan for how to get there. And I mean, it wasn't rigid, but we had an idea and we were following our hearts and what we wanted. So with all of that out of reach now, trying to figure out what my life is going to look like and figure out who I am within this new version of my life is scary. So I have been really trying to listen to what my heart and my gut tell me, because they've never really been wrong, I don't think. My sister asked me at the beginning of this year, when I was considering taking time off my full-time job to focus on writing, she asked me, has your gut ever been wrong? And I said, no. And she responded, exactly, you should go for it. So, and that's not to say that I am never wrong, because I definitely am, and I'm far from perfect, and I don't always make good decisions. However, with the poor decisions that I have made in my life up to this point, I've always had a little voice inside me, or a little gut feeling that might have said, this is not a person you should be in a relationship with, or so many other things. That's one that really comes to mind. But you know, sometimes when things fall apart or go in a direction that at the time is not what I've hoped for, my gut is always kind of in the background saying, oh, I knew that was going to happen. So trusting my gut and leaning into the fear that comes with taking an extended period of time off of work, relying on the savings that Brian and I had that was supposed to be for a house, which on my own salary now is not possible. The vulnerability that comes with focusing on a creative career, potentially, who knows? And of course, all of these things are scary, and they bring me back to something that's always kind of been there under the surface for me, and that's this fear of failure and a fear of not being good enough, of not doing something well enough. That's something that I have had for as long as I can remember. And ironically, even just filming this video is something that I have procrastinated doing. It's something that I've tried. This is my third, maybe fourth attempt at doing this, because I did it a few times and I felt like the things that I said were not what I wanted to share. I'm someone whose hair and makeup are never perfect. My skin is never perfect. I tend to say the wrong thing sometimes, or sometimes I say something that's not quite what I mean. And these were all things that stopped me from doing this and from being happy or even okay with the 3 attempts that I had at doing this before. And I know that I just said that my hair and makeup never looked perfect. When I decided to sit down and just, get this out there and stop procrastinating, I thought about putting on a full face of makeup, because my skin is not always an even tone, and I wondered about what to do with my hair, and I thought, you know what, just stop having reasons to not do it, because really they're all small things that are contributing or part of my fear of not doing a good enough job of something, of not being good enough. So to heck with that. And I'm leaning into the fact that this is a little bit scary for me because it's something that I'm new at. But I think that being afraid of something and feeling that little bit of fear is okay. And it might even mean that there is a bigger point to whatever it is I might be feeling or doing, and for you also. So I think that it's important to lean into the fear, accept it, lean into it, and do the thing. You're not going to stop being afraid before you do it. So don't wait for the fear to pass. Don't wait to overcome the fear and then do the thing, because it doesn't work that way. You have to do the thing in order to overcome that fear. There's nothing after that but growth. Even if you do an abysmal job of it, even if this is terrible, even if only 2 people see this and then maybe even they think it's useless, I will have grown from doing it. So that is a good thing. And it's okay to be afraid while you're doing something. I think that that is completely valid. And so here is my little message to you for today, if you would like it, is to not be afraid of being afraid. There is nothing wrong with being afraid. Just don't let it stop you from doing the things that you want to do. I did this kind of on the fly after, as you know, too many attempts to overthink what I was going to say. So hopefully I've touched on all the dot points of what I wanted to chat with you about, but thank you for joining me. Don't forget that vulnerability is really powerful. Believe in yourself, whatever you're doing, whatever you're feeling, just trust it and be kind, be courageous, and hopefully I will see you next time. Thanks for being here.